On today's episode, we'll be talking about my continued knit, the Dianella wrap, spinning lots of Rolags, as well as blending up some confetti bats. I'm Marina and this is Pineapple Knits. This is my channel dedicated to knitting, spinning, and weaving. You can connect with me on social media at Pineapple Yarn, and you can connect with me on my website at pineappleyarn.com. Thank you so much for joining me again this week, and if this is your first time viewing this channel, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. I'm coming to you today from coastal South Carolina. We are coming upon Memorial Day weekend, so it's kind of the unofficial start of summer, and we have the weather to match it. It is very warm and very humid, and I have no complaints. This is my favorite weather. I love it outside, and I'm just soaking it up as much as I can. My kids are outside. It's just so great. We love summer, and we are so happy that it's finally here. I'm sipping on some coffee. This is actually black coffee, and I usually have collagen powder in my coffee. It's healthy, it's good. I always put it in my coffee. My husband accidentally purchased chocolate collagen powder, and I didn't think I would like it, but now I'm kind of hooked. So when I have it in my coffee, it tastes like a fancy coffee. And so I just use black coffee, a scoop of collagen, chocolate collagen. That's what I'm drinking right now. I'm filming this in the morning, so I'm so excited, drinking coffee. It's great. I have my Good Vibes shawl on my mannequin again this week. I love this shawl. It's so beautiful. The only downside to summer is that it's too warm to wear these big shawls. I've actually been checking out some one skein shawls and some, I guess, smaller shawls, shawlettes, because I do like to wear those in the morning if I go somewhere. I just think it looks nice, and I do like to wear wool. Nothing with mohair in the humidity, of course. Of course. But yeah, this is going to be so fun though when it does cool down a little bit coming into fall and winter. I'm sure I'll get so much wear out of it. I love that shawl so much. All right, let's chat about the Dianella wrap. This is a pattern by Ambah O'Brien. I love this pattern. I love it. It is so fun to knit. And I'm very close to the end. So I'm using the leftovers from my 2020 Advent Calendar. The theme for 2020 was vitamin C. And so it's all these bright colors. How fun is this? This was such a great pattern. I am loving this so much. And the original pattern actually uses fingering weight yarn as well as a skein or two of a lace weight mohair silk, like my Noe mohair silk base. I just decided to knit this all in fingering weight yarn because that's what I had in my Advent calendar. Look at this gradient. Are you kidding me? Oh, this is so pretty. It's so funny. I mean, I had planned this for so long and I still just cannot get over how gorgeous this is. I love this. So if you remember from last week's episode, I just wasn't quite sure about where to begin the decreases on this because I wanted to make sure that I could use as much of my calendar as possible. So what I ended up doing, let me back up for just a minute. I had about 8 to 10 grams of each color left. There were 24 colors in my Advent calendar, and so I had approximately 240 grams left, and I figured that would be enough for this wrap, and that's why I chose this pattern. And so I wasn't quite sure where to begin the decreases. There were 80 rows of this main section, and then there are 40 rows of the decrease section. I didn't want to run short, and so I began the decrease section on day, let me think about this. I believe it was day 18 of my calendar. So if you split it up into thirds, if I would have used a third at the end, that would have started on day 17. But I added day 17 to the main non-decrease section, I guess, the main body of the shawl, and then started on day 18 with the decreases. In hindsight, if I was going to do this again, I think I would continue the main body with another 10 grams. I could probably even go another 20 grams because I am currently knitting on day, I believe it's day 23, and I only have this much left. And I have quite a bit of yarn left. I have probably, it fell down on the floor, so I'm not going to reach down and get it, but I probably have 10 grams. I have all of day 24 sitting on the floor. I will not get to day 24. I have probably more than half of day 23. When I saw that I was going to have extra left, I did skip around a little bit because I wanted it to be kind of even. I knew that the color repeats were going to be longer on this decrease section than they were on the main body, if that makes sense. And so I just used little shorter sections of this, let's say day 20 through 24. So I do have this much left of days, I think 20 and 21 or 21 and 22. So I am, I would say this is about 8 to 10 grams right here. So I will be writing some notes in my patterns. I am so far behind on writing my project notes. That was one of my goals for 2021, if you remember me saying this in January on my episodes from then. Yes, so for all of you who might be thinking about knitting this and want to maximize your yarn usage, I would say the decrease section is going to take a maximum of 40 grams if I'm doing my math correctly. I will sit down and write everything out. I'll think about it. I'll weigh the shawl after I'm done. I'm loving this. The only thing is there is an integrated I-cord on each side. So right here, this top that I'm showing you, it's not very stretchy. And it partially is, that's I-cord. I mean, that's the way I-cord is, but also it's the way I knit it. Even though I am a loose knitter, my I-cord is never super stretchy. I just saw that Stephen West came out with a video of how to make your I-cord stretchier. I really wish I would have seen his advice when I began this shawl, but you know, I will be using his methods down the line. I'll link his video below because it was very insightful. It was very useful. I'm not even going to get into it here because he explains it way better than I ever could, but I definitely would check out his video. So anyway, I'm very close to being done and I'm very excited about it. It's going to be beautiful. It is not that long, as you can tell. I think it will be just long enough to put around my neck. I'm going to aggressively block it, so I'm going to get as much length out of it as I can, but I have about, right now I have this much on either end, so it might just kind of be one of those shawls where it really is more of a scarf and I just kind of wear it like this. I might tie one knot into it. I'll play around with how I wear it, and you know what? I might end up loving the size because it is shorter. I'm not sure. But again, it's coming along and it's nearly finished. So pretty. Besides that knitting project, I have been super into spinning after I purchased my electric eel 6.0. I had taken a bit of a break from spinning. It's just the way things kind of worked out, and it really has reignited my passion for spinning. I love it so much. So what I've been doing this week, I cleaned out a little bit of my fiber stash and just kind of organized it, and just to see what I had. And I realized I have so many Rolags that my children have blended on my blending board. I mean, so many Rolags. And so I figured I really need to use them and put them into some kind of project. So I started spinning them, and what I'm doing is I am taking one color, spinning it, and then going to a different color, spinning it, and then maybe coming back to one that is similar, spinning it. So I'm getting this really kind of like scrappy patchwork type singles. And this bobbin, I stopped here, and I am spinning one that is, I'm going to either weigh or kind of eyeball and see if it's the same. Probably ply them together into a 2-ply. So here's what I have so far. So pretty. Did not realize it matches my dress, so there's that. I did not plan that today. I really love how this turned out though. It has a little bit of a sparkle. I'm going to show you the end of the bobbin. Maybe you can see that white yarn in there, those white singles, those actually have little yarn bits. That's some of the first confetti yarn, confetti Rolags that I blended from my yarn scraps. I did those, I think, last year. So I had a few of those left, and I put those into the singles. So like I said, this is a very scrappy yarn. It's going to have lots of texture. I am pretty sure it will end up being a DK-ish weight yarn. There are so many different fibers in here though. I know I have merino, I have Cheviot, Polworth, and I do think I have a bit of Southdown as well. So I have some really fun textures, and I have some Angelina for sparkle. It's just really fun. The nice thing is also with the texture, some of these Rolags are getting a bit felted, and it may just be because they weren't handled with care as they were being blended that much. Yeah, I don't know. They've made little neps, they've made little bits of texture, so I don't feel, I don't feel like it's going to be a strange yarn putting some singles with confetti, yarn scraps that I blended up. This is what I'm keeping my current Rolag spin in. These are all of the extra Rolags that I am currently spinning. And so as you can tell, I have lots of different textures in there, lots of different colors. This one's kind of fun. This is kind of like a pastel rainbow. I don't know who, I think one of my older girls blended this because it's pretty consistent. But I do have, I have ones that are just completely falling apart. Like this one, I don't really know who, I don't know. This looks like my 7-year-old, well now my 8-year-old, she just had a birthday. But yeah, so I'm doing my best spinning these up. We'll see how the yarn turns out. It may not be completely consistent, but it's still going to be really, really fun. And I know for my children, when they see me using their Rolags, it's kind of fun. They'll sit down next to me and we'll chat about, I think it was maybe this one here. It has some really pretty red tweed in it. I'll show you close up. Just those really pretty little neps in it. And I think this was from a Paradise Fibers box, maybe a couple of years ago. So one of my daughters was saying that she blended this up to look like the beach. And so you've got your blue colors and you've got some texture and kind of sand. She thought it looked like the beach. I thought that was cute. She put some purple Angelina in there. Doesn't really match, but you know, that's okay. That's what she felt like looked the best. So that's what I'm dealing with here. This is what I'm spinning. But it's so cute, and it kind of brings back memories, and oh, that was the day that it was cold out, and so we blended Rolags, and it's just fun. So I do have another bobbin on my wheel. I'm doing bobbin number 2, and I've tried to choose other Rolags that I don't have on my first spin. So my first spin, I had lots of dark blues. I had some gorgeous tangerine colors, coral. And so I may have some overlap, but y'all know how I love barber pulled yarn. And so I'm hoping that I get the same effect from this. And yeah, so I have them all housed in this basket. I wove this out of a palm frond when we lived in Hawaii, and it's lasted for quite a while. They're super easy baskets to make, and so if you ever have access to a coconut palm, and a lot of times you see them if they're being maintained, if they're being pruned, I guess, you can grab one and weave these baskets. They're super fun. So that is my current spin. I've been spending so much time on that. I love it so much. And so what do I plan on doing with this yarn after I spin it? I'll have to check on the yardage, but I would love to knit a shawl from it, just like a super colorful, super fun shawl. I think it would be just outstanding. I would love it. I have so many, I don't have so many, but I have a good number of cold weather accessories for my kids as it is right now. I did spin up some yarn for them last year and have made beanies and scarves and things, and we just don't have a really cold, we don't have a very long winter season, and so we don't need a ton of that, though I do have 5 children, so we do need a certain amount of cold weather accessories. But we'll see what the yarn turns out and what it wants to become when it's all done. I just think it'd be so cute making a big shawl from it or something like that. I think it'd be really fun. The other thing I've been working on is I've been using my Brother Baby drum carder to blend up some confetti bats. So that's kind of what I've been calling my bats that I use with my yarn scraps. I don't really know. It's kind of a scrappy bat, I guess. But right here I have some that I blended up. And the first ones that I blended up, I'm just trying some different techniques. I'm brand new to drum carding, so I'm just kind of seeing what works the best. I used a yellow merino wool and blended up with some really pretty yarn scraps. So this one I feel like it doesn't have a ton of confetti in it or yarn scraps. And I think I blended this one up by just sandwiching 2 thin layers of wool and then, or putting 1 thin layer of wool, then putting a layer of these little tiny yarn scraps in it, and then putting a thin layer of wool on top, kind of like a sandwich, and then running it through the drum carder. So this was a good size bat. And then I did kind of a different technique on this one, and I think I might like this one better. This one is definitely less wool, but it has more scraps in it. So the way I did this is I actually didn't feed very much wool into the drum carder. I actually just brushed the wool on top of the drum itself while I was turning the crank. And then I placed all of the yarn scraps actually on the drum, and then kind of made a sandwich that way, but just on top of the carder without running it through. So this one definitely has a lot more scraps in it. We'll see how it spins up. But what I've realized at the end of the day, you lose a lot of these little neps, little yarn scraps. You lose a lot as you spin the yarn and as you actually card it as well. So it's a very messy process. It just is. And this one I started another bat, but I'm using BFL. And so this is a BFL I dyed and just kind of had in my stash. I dyed it quite a bit ago, but oh, I just love BFL. It has such a nice crimp. This is so fluffy. And so this one, I did a sandwich. So I took thin layers of BFL and fed it into the drum carder, and then did the sandwich. So the layer of thin wool, and then the confetti yarn scraps, and then another thin layer of wool. So this is just for fun. I don't have a project in mind. I have so many yarn scraps. I have so many yarn scraps, and I never really wanted to do like a bulky weight art yarn. I do love it in weaving though. I think it's beautiful in weaving, like a worsted to bulky weight yarn, especially if it's uneven, thick and thin. It is gorgeous in weaving. So I might get there. I might start doing that with my yarn scraps, is just do like a kind of a worsted to bulky weight art yarn for a specific weaving project. These bats are just for fun. I may add them to my scrappy shawl, whatever I end up doing with that. But I do have that kind of tangerine coral confetti yarn that I showed you either last week or the week before. And so these will probably kind of go with that. I have an undyed Polworth with that beautiful kind of neon speckled confetti yarn. And I have a skein of that in my stash that I've spun already. So those might end up being a project someday. I don't really know what they'll end up being. I know they can't be too hard wearing though, because even though I have fulled the yarn, it's a non superwash fiber, so I can full it so those scraps kind of stay in a little better. But at the end of the day, they still fall out, and it definitely might be something I'm doing wrong. I'm just a newbie. I don't really know. I'm just doing it for fun and experimenting and coming up with some fun techniques. So it's been super fun making these bats, and it's been really fun spinning on my electric eel wheel. It's just so easy, and it kind of feels like a vacation just sitting on my couch and spinning. Not gonna lie, it's pretty nice. So that's really all I've been working on this week. Future plans, what I have in store for my knitting. After I finish the Dianella wrap, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I have a sweater quantity of beautiful yarn dyed up for one of my daughters, and she casually mentioned it in conversation. I don't really feel like knitting a sweater right now. I know she's not going to wear it until November, but I may work on that for her. She is like my #1 wool fan. She loves all the wool garments and socks that I make for her. So I would love to make her a sweater. I know that she will wear it. So I might start on that. I've been looking at a lot of one skein projects. I have had the Storm Shawl in my kind of mental queue, my mental to-do list since it came out, really. It's It's a beautiful shawl by Joji Locatelli, and it uses 1 skein of fingering weight yarn. And so I've had my eye on that, and I don't know why I haven't knit it yet, because it's, for a 1 skein pattern, it looks huge. And so I'm very interested to see how large that shawl actually is. So I might play around, especially as the weather gets warmer, with some of these 1 skein projects, especially because the yarn that I dye and that I sell at Pineapple Yarn and that I personally love, I love the speckled, variegated, super bright, super funky yarn. And I think these 1 skein projects are perfect for that kind of yarn. So I might play around with a couple of new patterns and see, or new to me patterns, and see how they are. If you have any recommendations for 1 skein projects, any patterns in mind, would you please leave a comment below, because I would love to hear any ideas that you have. I'm always blown away by your pattern suggestions. There's always things that I look over or that I haven't heard of. So I would love any recommendations that you have. I'd love to check those out. Well, that is about it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this episode, I'd love if you'd give it a thumbs up. I'll be back again with you next week. And until then, I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.